in a second.
Thank you so much for coming. I know it's cold and wintry and takes a bit of oomph to get out in the evenings these days. So thank you so much for being here. You're going to be listening to a talk by Open. He heads the organisation Openhand. I'm the community connector for Openhand. So if you choose to come on any courses or any other events, I'm usually the person you connect with. We have an extensive website. I would recommend that you explore the website. There is so much information on it to do with the shift, to do with all kinds of things about processing karma and everything involved in being a human being at this moment, experiencing the huge planetary and cosmic shifts that are leading to our ascension. It's here and now, it's happening now. We have to be engaged with it now. And we provide lots and lots of resources for people to get involved with that and help navigate all these changes. It's constantly changing. It's called the shift. The history to a lot of it is in this book, if you're interested in reading about where Homo sapiens came from and why it's been such a challenge being part of the human race. At the moment, we're looking at where the shift is now and where it's going. And Owen will be telling you about the experiences we've had all through 2022, where we've been in communication with a lot of the star being nations. So how we've been connecting with them, communicating with them, all of us exploring the various histories and traumas that we've been through in our own civilizations and how it's brought us to this point, and how a lot of them have had quite negative, you could say, impacts for Homo sapiens. But now it's a time for communicating and for collaborating and for us all to realign in the shift. And that's what we're hoping to bring you up to date on tonight. So thank you so much for being here, and over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. Rainy night. It's we're turning in a circle into a new year. Sometimes that's a heavy, depressing kind of time, can be, as the festivities wear off pretty quick, right? No doubt you don't feel that way, but that's definitely an energy that you can pick up in the field. But there's also another energy you can pick up in the field as well. And I'm feeling incredibly enthusiastic. When the new year turned and leading into it, I was feeling a tremendous upwelling of enthusiasm for what is to come in 2023. But it's not a rose-tinted glasses enthusiasm. It's based on experiences we had in the year leading up to the solstice, just before the festive season. Tonight, I don't want to talk to you as much as communicate or transmit more a feeling, a frequency, an energy, a perspective. We're all going to have different views on what's going on. There are so many different clouds and obscuring veils out there that it's up to us to each work our way through it, piece by piece, veil by veil. So it's not so much what I say as how you feel about it. Because ultimately the shift, ascension, is an internal movement of consciousness through the various layers, the densities inside. There's the journey. Only we each individually can make it. It must be our work that does it. And it's a self-realization work, more and much beyond the intellect. The intellect is just one channel. So understanding at one level, that's just one channel. It must be worked with, activated, embodied, and calm and processed through. So I'm working to communicate frequencies. You may find them subtle, but that's all it really takes to kick off, activate karma, to take you through a past life regression maybe, or to bring alive star frequencies, which are happening in the field much stronger now. Why is that? I'd like to explore that with you, and that'll be the central theme, or the theme I keep returning to through this communication tonight. Who are the star beings? What are they here to do? How can they help? Most importantly, how can we perceive and feel their presence and work with that energy? Even if you still think, well, that's a bit out there, it's a bit cosmic. I'm sure that's not the case. This is Glastonbury, and you've responded. You've responded to the posters. But even if you think it's a little bit out there, I don't see star beings, that's completely okay. That's completely okay. Because even if you see them, it doesn't matter. What do you do with it that counts? How do you work with it that counts? They're calling now. They want to say it. Yeah. Where does this come from? Where am I sharing from? Where am I sharing from? I incarnated rather, well, you could say unusually, but now more and more people, especially in our organization, are realizing it. I incarnated as a soul exchange, a walk-in, during a car crash which took place, well, it wasn't completely during the car crash. It began during the car crash and took several years to integrate. This was back in 2002. And in the car crash, I had visions, incredible visions of the earth transforming. It was full on, I have to say. A ball of fire is what I saw. Yeah, quite shocking, really. And a feeling knowing of what that meant and where it was coming to. But I didn't really have the context, the 3D thoughts of vocabulary to put it into a way I could share it. I started sharing it the day after, and it freaked everybody out, as you can imagine. The people who knew me, friends and family, suddenly this big shift had happened in this person speaking about cosmic things. It didn't go down too well. So I had to find a context to fit it into. I have also inherited a science background in a fair degree of quantum theory. And I started to realize how the spirituality I was embodying met with the quantum theory. The two actually meet. You can look at the galactic superwave at the time of the grand solar minimum and during the pole shift. What that actually means, what that's actually going to do, and how that converged with the visions that I was seeing or saw in the car crash. So I saw a convergence of the philosophy with the spirituality. And so that's where my journey here on this planet began. I realized the connection with what you might call higher dimensionals. Some call them ascended masters. The group that I certainly work with don't wish to be called that. Once you call yourself a master, you set yourself up for failure, right? Because there's always something to be mastered, always something to be learned. And there's a lot of distorting energy associated with those various forms. So to me, they just want to be known as frequencies, numbers, frequencies of consciousness, which I'll actually come to in the presentation. Because frequencies of consciousness, we all know about being is the change. Great philosophical truth. But what does it actually mean? How can you apply it? Being isn't just sitting on a mountaintop or meditating in a retreat center. There are different qualities of beingness, frequencies of the soul, a soul ray harmonic, which we each have, and fascinatingly, the star being nations come through on a particular harmonic. And if you can pick up that harmonic as a feeling inside of you, it can amplify. Now the space-time continuum of reality bends around what you're being, assuming you're being authentic and coherent. In other words, completely integrated. If you're being that and you're expressing certain soul frequencies and harmonics, the space-time continuum will bend around you and crystallize and take shape and take form. This is essentially quantum theory. with spirituality blended into it. If we can then understand what the frequencies and the harmonics are and work with them, we'll be working with the star being nations who are drawing close right now. That's a fabulous opportunity we have available to us. It's why I'm so bloody excited right now and really having to work to contain it. You can look out into the world and see the shadow state being stirred up, and plenty of alternatives paying attention and focusing on that. Understandably so. They're driving the agenda in society. But society is only one wafer-thin aspect of reality. They're not driving the shift, they're reacting to the shift. They're trying to lock down because of the acceleration of energy as we move into a high energetic segment of the galactic current sheet. And what that means, and what these grand convergences of cycles with the solar system and the Earth are, they are reacting. They are not in control. It may appear that way when you look at your energy bills or whatever it is, but they're only reacting to something much bigger that's going on. And that energy is coming to the surface, being broken up, and it's desperately clinging on with one new agenda, one machination, one drama, each day after another. We would be foolish to be attuned and plugged into that. Notice the boulders on the path, yes, but focus on the path between them. We all know what you put your attention on, what you invest your energy in, becomes reality. Most of these agendas floated by the shadow state are only their ambitions and plans and machinations. They aren't actualized. But if everybody buys into it, believes it, and keeps going with it, guess what happens? So that is going on, but that's the reaction to the great emergence of consciousness, and the foundations of that shadow state agenda have been broken down at the roots. That's something we've been experiencing in recent times. I'd like to share some of that experience with you. So a tremendous movement is going on. The more clear we can be in that, the better. I'm sharing perspective then. I maintain, you don't have to believe me, it's not a prerequisite. I maintain it's coming from the higher dimensionals supporting the shift. But the essence of it, the crucial point of it is, how do you feel in response to it? That's the crucial thing. What is your truth in response to it? How can your truth evolve in relation to what I'm sharing tonight, both theoretically, philosophically, energetically? How might it shift? We are in a time of tremendous transformation. As Tilly said in the introduction, we really need to be on board as a daily practice, as our orientation in every aspect of life, because we do not have much time left. We do not have much time left. I'm going to look at the window open to us. I'm going to look at how the Ascension timeline is accelerating. So these are things I'm going to be exploring tonight with you. Key trends into 2023. So what was happening in 2022 that we can then intuit is moving forwards in 2023. Star being collaboration, I should add to that, reconciliations. Our history, right back to human DNA, has and is being influenced by star being nations, both of a benevolent perspective and malevolent. And to me, what I see, what I witness, the malevolent side has had the upper hand for some thousands of years, maybe 250,000 years. But that's coming to an end. It's breaking down for a very important reason, which I'll come to in the presentation. And because it's breaking down, then the star being nations are able to come in because the density is diminishing. It's fracturing. And so the higher frequencies can come in more prominently. So I'm going to talk about that too. I'm going to talk about, so what? So these frequencies are coming in. How do you benefit from them? Yes, your bills are being put up. Our bills are being put up. Yes, the resource chain is being squeezed. Yes, movement is being constrained. But this is all energy. It's all numbers. It's all consciousness. If we are reacting to that, then the tail is wagging the dog. However, if we're in the co-creative movement of the universe, the torus, if we're centered in that, coming from that, we're co-creating with the divine. Resources follow authentic creation, not the other way around. It's not like you're seeking, grasping, trying to grab at resources to make something happen. The tail is wagging the dog. The cart is put before the horse, so to speak. Authentic being and expression creates and crystallizes energy, resources around it. It's the other way around. We've been conned, fooled by society, by the state, by the shadow that's pulled people in, nose to the grindstone. And so then what happens is we get into intentional manifestation. Who's intentioning? It's still only an identity. It's still only an identity that's trying, grasping to create something. And if you think about it, it's often from a sense of lack that it's happening. It's poverty consciousness because we're not able to accept the natural movement and flow of the torus. When you are in and centered and anchored in the natural flow of the torus, you are downloading free energy through your being. If you express that, it's going to actualize and crystallize. We'll look then at what is truly quantum manifesting. We'll look at why is this so important, because the Ascension timeline is accelerating, which I'm sure we can all feel. Let's look at what's actually going on with that. So I'm going to share perspectives in these areas. Don't worry, it won't be massively long. It's more a communication of energy. With that in mind, I just invite us to close our eyes a few minutes, because there are some tremendous energies around us, even in the space right now. No doubt you've brought some star being connections with you. Let's just have a few moments of meditation then, just to close the eyes. And inhaling, exhaling through the nose. And as you breathe with a tension in the back of the throat, with a tension in the back of the throat, it sets up this resonance through the throat chakra. And the chakra being a consciousness exchange point of the soul flowing into the vortex, the presence of the torus. And so as we pay attention then, it starts to feel expansive. Timeless. Connected. Sense of belonging. Now as you inhale, let that expansion merge upwards through the third eye and feel the expansion of the third eye. by softening and relaxing through the third eye. And all the way up to the crown. Inhale, expand, but only expanding into the outer reaches of your own field, just with that clarity. The whole universe is inside of you. The outer is merely a hologram projected from the inner. Now as you exhale, exhaling down through the head, through the throat, through the heart. Inhale up, hold, exhale down through the head, the throat, the heart, and down through the upper abdomen, solar plexus, sacrum, and finally opening through the pelvis and down through the base. So the breath draws the energy up on the in-breath, down on the out-breath. And you might start to feel, or it might be natural to you, the kundalini swirling, spiraling up and down. And in this approach, that's happening around the vortex of the universal torus. Now, when you open your eyes, it's important that a part of your awareness, consciousness stays behind the eyes in the core, the center of this experience, not to be pulled out into what you see out there. So now let the eyes open, and yet staying with the feeling internally, that being your source of truth. Thank you. It feels beautiful. The connection feels fantastic. Real deep, calm, connected. Thank you. Let's take a look at the trends coming into 2023. So what's been happening through 2022? What I see is the shadow agenda fracturing. And the reason I say the shadow agenda is fracturing is because if I jump to point 3, I feel that, I observe, witness that happening with various of the intervention energies, entities, groups that have so controlled humanity and the planet for aeons. So you can connect into the reptilians, for example. I was a part of a mission that helped connect with the Omega, the Queen, and take that energy out in September, it was around September 2013, since which point it's a collective consciousness, the coherency of it started to break down. In energy healing work, you were finding that you could move, extract reptilian entities from people's fields much more easily. They would dislodge much more easily. To be clear, we all have reptilian DNA, of course, going way back to primordial times, prior, of course, to great apes, hominids. Prior to that, we have that DNA. DNA is a receiver, transmitter of soul frequency or of information. And so that nation was coming in, influencing excessive consumptive behavior through that DNA. That's why so much depletion and destruction of the environment has been happening, because of that excessive oppression, thriving, but by controlling others. and life forms. You've seen a fragmentation of that energy. I think it was very symbolic when the Queen passed on, for example. Symbolic for me, just symbolic. That you saw something shifting, breaking down in the field. So that's been going on. I was also involved, a part of a mission back in 2012 leading up to galactic alignment, which connected with the leadership of the Anunnaki, who were the architects of what we can call the Matrix, that which we're living in. They, for example, constructed the pyramids. We took two groups on pilgrimage through Egypt, what I call Atlantis, this last year. And one of the people, several of them were regressing into past lives during those times. One of them actually recalled how the Sphinx Temple was created and the pyramids, was part of the team that did it. How do you get 200-ton blocks that are made and created for the Sphinx Temple, hoisted tens of meters above the ground, and put into place with not a piece of paper can pass between the blocks, when the most sophisticated cranes today are not able to do that? How did they do it? They cut the blocks out of the bedrock with lasers. This is what we got. They used sound technology to make it more malleable. They changed the crystal alignment so that the blocks would also support it being a stargate. They made it more plasticized, malleable, used sound resonance to lift them into place, then literally weld them together, if you like. You cannot pass a piece of paper through the blocks. This is what was communicated through this person regressing through that life. I had had many confirmations of that prior to it. So it was really confirming what I already knew. You may or may not believe it. That's completely okay. But when you consider that the pyramids, the structure contains the speed of light encoded within the dimensions, the mathematical figure of pi encoded within the dimensions. Also, the circumference of the main pyramid on the Giza Plateau to the ratio of the height is exactly the same as the circumference of the Earth to the ratio of from the center of the Earth to the North Pole. Exactly the same ratio. How did they know that? And how did they manage to create the pyramids with those kinds of dimensions encoded within them, with basic chipping instruments? It didn't happen, of course. Highly sophisticated civilization with advanced technology. Why did they do it, though? That's the crucial thing. What I would say to you is to control the natural vibrational frequency of the planet, to lower it and extract energy from it for their civilization. This, I know, is contradictory to what a lot of viewpoints out there would say, but that's certainly what we were observing and experiencing. I've shed a lot more evidence for that in the book Divinicus. And the energy was used to control the population. When you go in the pyramid, I'm sure plenty of you have, or when you go to various sites on the Giza Plateau and others like the Temple of Philae and Abu Simbel, for example, it's a feeling like you're being lifted out of the body, which can feel beautiful and peaceful and blissful, and it's going to feel like deification if you're in the 4D frequency, the 4D expansion. But at what cost? What happened, we perceive through past life journeying, is that sovereignty was lost and handed over to an elite power, that this elite power was worshipped there. And that was the Anunnaki gods, so to speak. You hear many stories like the translations of Zechariah Sitchin and others coming through up until modern times. We know there's been this intervention. You can also see that the DNA has been changed, hybridized in Homo sapiens. The key evidence is how we went from 48 chromosomes to 46. That's actually not one or even two simultaneous changes. It's a whole raft of changes that happen simultaneously. Had to happen simultaneously. There's no other way. That's not Darwin's theory. It's not Darwin's theory. And basically, at that point, at what I would call the beginning of Atlantis, 250,000 years ago, original humans were downgraded, the DNA was shifted, reduced, the communication infusion capacity was diminished. That was sealed in place by chromosome fusion in the second and the third chromosomes. I've shared the evidence again in Divinicus. It's all there. It's all in plain sight. Hybridization has taken place. Downgrading, a shutting down of higher dimensional soul frequency. That's how they managed to control people. That's how they're controlling people today. Through the false pandemic is about changing DNA to make people more acquiescent to the machinations of the shallow agenda, the synthetic metaverse, which is where they're wanting to take it. That's going on in my view and what I'm seeing and perceiving and experiencing on the surface too. But as I said, to me, that is in response. It's a reaction to a tremendous shift in energy that's going on. We have just had the solstice, which was a 10-year anniversary of galactic alignment in 2012. Just after that, I stood in the big hall with an audience who, I said to them, thank God galactic alignment is now complete, because we can all get on with the real work. Because that level of expectation, if you were in Glastonbury building up to galactic alignment in 2012, the level of expectation was astronomical. We were all going to, there's going to be a pole shift on that day. We were all going to ascend into 5D, and all of the problems would be wiped away. That was the prevailing viewpoint. That was the prevailing viewpoint. I think, thank God it didn't happen, and thank God we got that behind us, because now we can get on with the real work. This is what I was saying to the audience. The point being this, though, if you look back 10 years from now, back to galactic alignment, contemplate how much has changed on the planet in those short 10 years. It's hardly recognizable. Look at how much awakening there is. Look at the subjects being talked about and the realizations, the activations that people are having. A broad level of awakening. Okay, yes, the news and media and even alternative media is awash with the shadow agenda, because often they're being paid to. But you think of the activation of consciousness, the discussions we're having openly with each other, the feelings of these incredible frequencies and gifts that are coming alive in us, the acceleration of the climate and the transformation of the climate. We'll come on to that in a moment. What's actually going on? If you think back 10 years, wow, it's like a different millennium even. Like 1,000 years or something. It's, to me, extraordinary. So what does that mean going forwards for the next 10 years? I think I believe we're on an exponential climb now. We're at the kind of where the bend goes vertical in the climb. We're at that point. You're going to see massive, massive change now around us in the years ahead for a number of key reasons, which I'm going to come on to shortly. So, the energy of the planet is terraforming. The shadow agenda is on the back foot, trying desperately to hang on. But the 4D field that is a reflection of, the 4D field is fracturing. And because it's fracturing, you're getting these star being energies come in. You're going to look at what they are. But that's why, essentially, what you have right now, we're living in two worlds, not one. There's the old paradigm, which is making a hell of a lot of noise, day by day, increasingly so, a hell of a lot of noise, but you have the progressive emergence of a consciousness. You can't necessarily see it with 3D eyes, unless, of course, you're picking up the science, synchronicity, the numerology, and the flows that are going on and interpreting them through 3D eyes, which, of course, we can do. You can't necessarily just see it all, the veil's falling off, but you can feel it, experience it. And that's accelerating. That's accelerating. Now, if we tune in to that movement of energy and we respond to it and we're orientated with it on a moment by moment basis, that's going to become your reality. That will become your reality. Because you're creating feedback loops around you. You're looking through the 3D more as a metaphor. It's a metaphor. Instead, you're seeing colors, patterns, flows. Your perception is being drawn to signs, symbols. And as you pay attention, it weaves. Now you're walking through it. There's still a 3D construct, but that's only the base level. You're walking through it, being informed by it, and creating from the higher consciousness, which is landing here and now all around us. But only to the extent we pay attention to it. Only to the extent we pay attention to it. But if we do, whoa, it's becoming cosmic, astronomic. The level of connections that are coming in now off the planet is incredible. I'm going to talk about how we pick those frequencies up very shortly. So the energy field is terraforming, and we've got tremendous star being collaborations going on. This isn't theory, certainly not in this group. We are journeying with them. We've had 2 tremendous retreats in Mexico, 2 pilgrimages through the Nile, which I call ancient Atlantis. We've had a couple of retreats in Avebury, tremendous connections amongst the stars, amongst the crop circles, and interpreting, intuiting what they were saying last summer, and even seeing them manifest in response to our inquiry. Yes, just around this, very close to the retreat center we were at, responding to the inquiry we were having. And one of the key ones was a connection with the Andromedan energy, the Andromedan beings that were coming in. One of the groups that were creating them and leaving their signature, their calling card within them. To understand the star being reconciliations that are beginning to happen and need to happen in order for resolution and harmony to be established in a new paradigm, we need to go right back in history. We need to go right back in history to Lemurian times. What were Lemurian times? Lots of people, I'm sure, have a particular viewpoint on that, what it means. To me, it was the seeding of original humans 1 million to 6 million years ago. I like to relate it to the science. To me, it must relate to the science, because you can see it in the various iterations of how original humans did go from hominids to what would be original humans 1 million years ago. You can see it in the way the genetics changed and were secured in place through progressive iterations and transformations in the chromosome story again. You see how chromosomes were flipped around to secure in a particular species at that time. Couldn't have happened by chance. I can't share the evidence tonight, it's too technical and it'd take too long. But I have shared it in Leviticus. It is in plain sight that a progressive evolution, a progressive iteration, transformation happened about 6 million to 1 million years ago. Why was that supported or instigated or seeded? For two reasons. One, hominids were a collectivized consciousness. Just as many species on the planet are a collectivized consciousness with a deific, an angelic being that is the point focus, if you like, of that species or consciousness, so were the hominids. But the soul was evolving and yearning for individuated expression. And so various groups were tasked with coming in and adapting the DNA so that individuated soul expression could happen. At that point, the soul, the collective soul of hominids separated into individuated souls, which then became what infused original humans. You can see from that time 256 genes appearing in the human DNA that is nowhere, there are nowhere else on the planet, exists nowhere else on the planet. And what I know, what I can share, what I experience, and others have reflected similar, is that the Pleiadians were tasked to bring and contribute their DNA to the emergence, the seeding of original humans. There are many people now sharing those reflections. You can go all up the east coast of Australia, which I have, speaking with people who've incarnated there who can recall being a part of that seeding mission. There are many people recalling that, regressing into it now. So what I'm saying, you will have heard it from other people too, I'm saying Pleiadian DNA was used to transform the hominid being into original humans. And for one other key reason, because the hominids were greatly influenced by reptilian consumptive consciousness. And so that energy, the Pleiadian energy, was brought in to soften that, to give the sense, the feeling of more love, respect, compassion, joy, sense of innocence, playfulness. These kinds of traits were brought in to soften the control of the reptilian consciousness, and succeeded in doing so. You think about what you're experiencing today. We're carrying that DNA with us, the reptilian DNA, but there are people opening up in compassion, love, mutual respect. When we were up in Mexico, we had to work through that dense consciousness and break it down in ourselves, because we're carrying the past life regressions, we're carrying the past life karma back into that history. We're carrying it. When people journey there, they experience it. Then you're releasing these entities from the field. The field softens, it opens up. Then we were getting this tremendous Pleiadian energy coming in, were we not? Everyone was just like dancing in the studio. The sense of joy and upliftment was extraordinary. So we're discovering, learning how to confront and break down this karmic density from our ancient history within. And that's causing realignments and also reconciliations to happen between these various groups. These various groups have vied with each other, competed, and even warred with each other. You can read accounts of this in text, spiritual texts like the Vedanta and Veda and others. My interpretation is that there was basically warring happened between some of these ET groups, like the reptilians with the Anunnaki, who had the Greys in tow, who came here to re-establish their civilization after the destruction of Sirius 120 million years ago. That's why they came here. That's why they engineered the DNA, and they've been trying to re-establish their society ever since. But it's been communicated tremendously effectively what's actually taking place on the planet now, which is the shift due to the arrival, the imminence of the galactic superwave converging with the grand solar minimum and the pole shift. I'm going to talk about what that means. This is being communicated to those groups. You cannot negotiate with the Taurus. You cannot control it. It's going to do what it's going to do. And although these various groups have locked the energy of the planet down over the past aeons, they won't be able to do it any longer. Because the Taurus of the planet is re-establishing itself. And the anchoring ties into this old construct of breaking. The energy is heightening, it's speeding up. They know this now. They're in a disarray. The reptilians are in fear and anxiety. You can feel it inside when it connects in. They're in fear and anxiety. The Anunnaki, many of them, the group fragmented, and one, the leadership group, pulled away. This again we experienced in direct communication with those groups that we had through the Openhand work. They have pulled away and have been confused, intrigued. What's going on planet Earth right now? What's going on now? What's happening is working now to reconcile with each other and collaborate in the transformation to the new paradigm. How are they doing that? The Anunnaki were the architects of the 4D field, the matrix, the construct. What if you can get them to reverse engineer what they put in? That's going to amplify, rapidly unravel what took place, the intervention that happened on the planet. It's going to rapidly unravel that. This is something we were seeing in Avebury, for example, and reflected through the crop circles. The technology was being removed, old 4D technology, and the stargates were now activating. The stargates being key nodal centers in the Earth's energy field. They're starting to help with that. But it's not completely straightforward because the group fragmented. You've got others who are still resisting. The leopard doesn't change its spots overnight, necessarily. So you've got some groups that are still resisting, which is why the shadow, the construct is still persisting. But you've got some working with the shift, and they want to call themselves the Anu now. And the reptilians are realigning, coming back to what we can call the galactic family of light, to their original draconian roots. Some of them, not all of them, not all of them. And another development that I've seen, witnessed, and experienced, communicating in the dream time through telepathy, but also seeing the effect of, I wouldn't report it otherwise, is that you have draconian energies come in to secure the base frequency of the planet, of the Taurus itself, because that's what's been messed with and controlled. Now it's being re-established. What will that do? To me, it will level the playing field. It will level the playing field. It'll give us something to anchor into and connect with into the planet and the core authentic energies of the planet. So I'm seeing that energy had direct connections with that energy, supporting that. And I've seen it in other places. I've seen it through Egypt, for example, the establishment of this base frequency, which is holding that foundational structure of a new paradigm, the lower dimensional energies of it. This is what I'm saying through experience is going on. Tremendous transformation is happening. You can't necessarily see it with 3D eyes, but since the surface crystallization of the quantum field is affected by everything that moves through the quantum field, of course, everything is impacted by it. It's shifting, it's transforming. Yes, plenty of people around you, perhaps the majority, are still invested, still locking, still securing the old paradigm in their consciousness in place. That's why we see it. That's why still people adhere to it. But what I'm saying is everything through it, around it, above it, below it is transforming right now. And this is the transformational effect will break down the old consciousness and unleash the new. So we have a tremendous involvement in human and earth history going back millions of years. The evidence is in the science, not just the spirituality. The evidence is also in past life regression therapy. It's there. The evidence is rife. It goes right back millions of years to when the reptilian consciousness arrived, probably through directional panspermia, DNA traveling on meteorites. You can see the changes that happened from that primordial period through to the seeding of original humans back in Lemurian times. You can see how the chromosome count changed, how 9 of the chromosomes, the middle section was flipped around as you went from one iteration to the other, from hominids to original humans. You see the intervention by the Anunnaki and Greys, principally at the time of Atlantis, 250 to 200,000 years ago. You can see it in the hybridization of Homo sapiens at that point. And you can see, you can intuit, you can feel the breakdown of the old construct and the emergence of the new. And that is timed with these grand galactic cycles that are converging. I'll get to that in a moment. So it's all happening together. It's all happening together. One is the effect of the other, which I'll come on to. Massive changes, incredible things going on in the field that we can tune into and benefit from. Huge, huge.
Welcome to the new Openhand HQ in Glastonbury on Wiriel Hill. It's been a site of sacred pilgrimage for thousands of years. Joseph of Arimathea is said to have brought the young Jesus here when this Avalon was surrounded by the ocean. When I look back over 2022 and moving here, it's symbolic of a great shift of alchemy, a quantum shift, which I feel is happening in the field right now. And you know, it's crucial that when we look out into the world, that we don't just focus and pay attention to the shadow which is being stirred up and which is prevalent in society right now, trying to lock things down, trying to control things. Because if you focus just at that level, then really what you're seeing is the effect of the shift. You're not seeing the causality of it. And if you focus on that, then that's what you get drawn into, and that's what you create. If you're constantly promoting the shadow agenda, then yeah, that's what you're going to experience. But at the same time, what we have happening is this tremendous emergence of consciousness as well. And you have to get into the inner world, the inner spaces to feel that. It cascades in from the higher dimensions and brings the soul alive in you. And then you're creating from an entirely different place. You are the conscious co-creator of reality. You're not constantly victimized by the effects of what's going on. And this is fundamental now, it's crucial, because so much change and transformation is happening in the field. "2022 for me was a year of high alchemy, and you can probably pick that up from the numerology. There's a lot of star being benevolent energies coming in, and that's really stirred up the shadow as this tremendous broad awakening is happening on the planet within humanity. And so benevolence has been working to stir that up. And what that's done is it's fragmented the intervention. It was already doing that, but this has happened to a great degree now. And they've been in a lot of confusion. The reptilian nation, for example, but also the Anunnaki have withdrawn or withdrew to some degree and have been looking in, curious as to what's going on. And so you've had that fragmentation of the coherency. And that means that much more light, higher vibrational energy is coming in. We have a lot to look forwards to in 2023. These are big years now. It's an epic build-up to the conclusion of the shift, which is coming anytime soon, maybe 10 years we've got, but really you can't afford to sit back and let it happen to you. You've got to be actively engaged. Every year is a new cycle, a new shift, a new movement, a new possibility. And if we're in the field and feeling it, downloading it, then we're alchemizing our reality. And that's really what it's all about. So what about 2023? After years of confrontation and conflict to challenge and break up this density, which is prevalent in the field, what I'm feeling is there's been this withdrawal to some degree, and now a desire, a yearning for reconciliation amongst the star being groups around us and infusing the planet and affecting DNA. I feel like a reconciliation is being felt and yearned for after all of the aeons of dissonance. And this is a very positive sign indeed. We must, at our level, work not to polarize, to demonize, to castigate. Because essentially what you're doing is you're railing, you're fighting against frequencies inside of yourself. We must learn to transmute inner density, transform those frequencies, of control, of manipulation, of victimization and feeling not good enough. We must learn to transform those feelings into aligned consciousness. And when we do that, then we're communicating that into the field and rippling it further into the field. We must be doing that now. So not fighting against those energies, because we're only fighting against ourselves at the end of the day. Reconciliation is wanting to happen, and then collaboration. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling, for example, the Andromedan energy there. I'm feeling Metatron, particularly in this time of transition through this 2022-23 new beginning. I'm feeling the Anu, the new evolution of the Anunnaki, gathering to support transformation in the 4D field. I'm feeling the reptilians realigning and the Pleiadians coming in to bring joy, upliftment, curiosity, vivacity. That's what I'm feeling coming in from them. So, and the Lyrians too, coming in at 7D or even higher, and the Arcturians ever present. So I'm feeling these different energies beginning to draw close to the earth in this crucial time, and we can all benefit from that. Because by connecting into them through this kind of work, through meditation, through the multidimensional opening of chakras and attunement, Kundalini activation, working with the Taurus, we can connect into these groups and have the energies infuse our lives, infuse your being. And that's what's going to shape, change, transform the day-to-day of life in society, in your relationships, how you live, how you work. This then is a tremendous opportunity. We must seize it. We must work with it to embody it and infuse it through our being. And that's what Openhand is going to be focusing on in 2023. We've got great work to support you in terms of online meditations, meditation groups, retreats, Ascension exchanges, terrestrial events where we're going out to different places around the world and working the energy field. So we've got masses happening and going on to capitalize on this energy. And our team are there to host, support, and look after you. We've got a new configuration leading into 2023. Of course, Tilly is going to be there as the Openhand connector, weaving the community, bringing it together. We got Thomas, who's working on outreach and connecting into different communities, different channels, and really bringing the Openhand work alive.
Dear Openhanders, this was a tough year for many of us. But the next year I'm feeling so much anticipation. I've got such a good feeling, I'm so inspired. This will be a year of big shifts. Let's do this together.
And we've got a new team member, Asya, who's working as core administrator to keep the wheels moving smoothly. So it's going to be a great year. We're going to have great support. And a quick word from Tilly.
Wow. Thank you all so much for being part of that journey, whether we actually speak to you, hug you, meet you, or you're just out there as kindred spirits through the ether. We appreciate your presence, and we know that what we do ripples outwards, and that you receive and appreciate that as we appreciate you. So thank you all so much, and wow, exciting times ahead for 2023.
So, it's another tremendous year we have to look forwards to. So much is changing on the planet. So much is transforming. There are oodles of opportunities and possibilities available to us. If we maximize that possibility by opening up and really working to embody these new frequencies of being that's coming in, that's, for me, is the excitement and the sense of joy and anticipation as I look forwards to another year in the shift, 2023. I'm certain it's going to be alchemical, adventurous, magical. See you along the flow. Namaste.
I ran the video. I know it's a little promotional, perhaps, but really what I wanted to do was inspire the kinds of things to get involved in and the kinds of things that people are doing and working in the energy field in different places around the world and how we're experiencing being uplifted by it. And specifically now, what I want to do is focus on the frequencies that we've been working with, are connecting into, and the various groups that I believe are resonating particularly on those frequencies. Just so as we get a sense, you have heard of course, of Pleiadians, of Lyrians, of Arcturians. How can they walk with you? How can you connect to them? You might not even know you're connecting to them. But what I would say is to focus on frequencies of being. And this is something that began in the spiritual mainstream with the likes of Blavatsky and Alice Bailey, who talked about the 7 rays of consciousness that they channel from the Ascended Master Dwal Kul, the Tibetan. So it started, the theory started then, way back, turn of the 1900s, I think, late 1800s. Well, I maintain, they were pointing to frequencies of the soul that we can actually work with, activate, and embody. And this is really the fundamental piece of work that we can be doing to transform our lives right now. Because when you transform your authentic beingness, when you activate dormant frequencies that are there, then you will weave, you'll shape, you'll create from a different paradigm, from a different context. And you'll weave it here and now in the 3D, so the energy cascades in. You know this. I don't believe I'm preaching. Well, I'm not preaching, but if I am preaching, I'm preaching to the converted. You know this. Of course you do. But what I'm working to illuminate is the varying frequencies to pay attention to. It's a sense, it's a feeling that comes through in relationships. Like, for example, the diplomacy ray 4, harmonizing through right resolution. You're literally holding an energetic frequency within a dissonant context, say between people with different points of view, who can't find a way to agree. You're literally holding a frequency which starts to shape and move the moment and bring those people together. The Ray 4 diplomat, for example. And I believe, see the Anu starting to come in, the new evolution of the Anunnaki on that ray. Ray 1, purposeful creative will. Of course, we all know about surrender, unconditional love, compassion, but we still need the drive, the commitment, the courage to create, bring things into being, to manifest. These are all, dare I say it, reptilian energies. Can I say that? But it got very distorted, right? This is why I spoke in the film of not castigating, not polarizing, not demonizing, because they're frequencies inside of us. Some of the people who are railing against that energy actually embody that energy. That's the peculiar thing. And it's a good thing to embody, providing it isn't controlling, manipulative, suppressing. But then we can change it, we can transform it inside. We set the boundary for that energy. And then the intervention can't influence you. But to have active Ray 1 warrior energy is just as powerful, purposeful, and necessary as the Ray 2 surrendering unconditional love, which comes in a lot, that I believe, on the Pleiadian energy. So you've got those two groups. And actually I see, as I talked about earlier, that those two nations, Pleiadian, Draconian, distorted Draconian, should I say, so Pleiadian, Reptilian, that dynamic has been, oppressor, victim through aeons, and is prevalent in society now. And it is the emergence, I see, of the divine feminine and the re-establishment of that, which is challenging that Hegman, and it's reflecting to it, this control manipulation doesn't work. I'm not oppressed by it. I will stand my ground and be in my truth compassionately, lovingly. It takes time, but it works. And that energy is beginning to fragment. When you can look in the eyes of your oppressor as the victim and show them grace, who now has the power? Who now has the power? That your oppressor can do something to you, but you don't react to it because you're bigger than that. You're more evolved than that. You don't fight, you don't polarize, but you show them grace, strength, coherency, integration of soul. What happens to the other in that case? The control starts to diminish and break down. You fight head on, what's going to happen? Perpetuation of that polarity. That's the problem I see in alternative circles right now, is that polarity going on. Whereas we need to show a different way. We need to express and animate a different way. You know that. I'm preaching to the converted again. Right? But who is the victim now? We are not. We are not. Yeah, he who controls only controls himself at the end of the day. So we have this surrendering unconditional love coming through. We have other things. The Ray 3, I believe the original Orions are very strong on the Ray 3. The Greys, to me, are hybridizations of the Orions who came here, who were brought here. And the Ray 3 is interpreting authentic reality, meaning I'm looking at reality, but I'm not seeing it in a literal way. I'm seeing the patterning, the numerology, the shapes, the flows. And to me, that's a very shamanic energy too, how I interpret the signs of synchronicity, power animals that I see around, for example. I've talked about the Ray 4. I believe the Andromedans are coming in on the Science Ray, which is the Ray 5, realizing higher abstract wisdom. I've been astounded by it, because it's not natural to me, but I've been astounded to encounter Andromedan star souls here and listen to how they create reality. Astounding. They see the field as sacred geometry, and by witnessing it, they weave it. They weave reality from simply witnessing the sacred geometry. It made absolute sense. I could reflect back on having encountered that. It's not natural to me, but I can reflect back on having witnessed and seen this happening. I'm seeing it happen now in star souls, Andromedan star souls, who are embodied, incarnated here. Extraordinary. And once you realize that you have that capacity in some way, shape, or form, then wow. You know, when I created, in the film you may have seen a slide, we were up on a place called Malcott in Cheshire just before the solstice. It's quite similar in some ways to the tour, except it's very massive, tremendous granite rock, incredible space. It was where the primitive Methodists used to gather way back in the 1800s. We were up there, Tilly and myself, just before the solstice, and the sky. I've been connecting with the Andromedan energy, and I was walking through the streets of Glastonbury. It was chucking it down with rain, and this guy was sitting on the sidewalk, on the pavement, soaking, just with his cap collecting. And so I went down and I gave him some money, and he handed me this. So I think you should have that. And wow, it was like, because I was working at that time with sacred geometry, the Andromedan energy, and also Metatron. So I had this, and the sky at the sunset just went completely amber, which I showed in the film. I superimposed the image of Metatron over it, and then unintentionally shaping it one way or another, just put the image on top. And you could see the wings shaped as the light coming through the clouds. It was just incredible, the synchronicity, the way those two images came together. And we've been seeing a lot of golden, amber-colored light coming through, especially at the time of sunset. We're having a lot of Andromedan connections. We had them through the crop circles, them shaping, weaving the crop circles, and experiencing that. So they're coming through on that ray. You've got the Arcturians. I always find them quite funny, quirky, like Yoda in Star Wars, very metaphysical, altruistic, higher dimensional. But they often seem to connect with the Andromedans. I see them coming in together on a slightly different frequency, often. Explore that, see what you notice. I see them working together. The Lyrans, when I think of the Lyrans, I think of the elves in Lord of the Rings. That kind of energy. I believe that all humans, all humanoid form originally came from the Lyrans in this galaxy, can I say just this galaxy? In this region of the cosmos, can we say? I believe we all originated from the migrants. That's my view. And what I get from them is like tremendous sense of alchemy. So particularly I connect with them through the crown chakra. When you sit and are able to be present and also in the okay and the not knowing of a given moment, then they'll come in from that space. In fact, I can feel them here now. And they'll create from pure alchemy. So I feel them coming in on that ray. I call it, the ray 7. And then you've got Metatron, who I believe is embodying the divine paternal energy, an overseer, if you like, of the new paradigm. But above that, I see Kuan Yin, nurturing, protective, unconditionally loving. And I believe you have these frequencies who are working to usher in the new paradigm. I put it up there. I'm sure you'll recognize some. Some of it may be described differently or haven't been described differently to you. The crucial thing, though, is to work with the sense of those energies. Work with them as they're activated, coming up. If some guy, I know you will, if some guy in the street hands you, an amber crystal or whatever, then you know it's for a reason. Of course you do. Of course you do. But let's pay attention. Let's pay attention to what comes up. Yeah. So the 9 frequencies then, which I think are crucial to the shift and how we really transition through. What about quantum manifesting with that thing? Surrender into the Taurus. Right, what do we mean? We've all heard of the flower of life. Well, this is a depiction of the presence and the source, if you like, of the universe exploding with what you can kind of call the Big Bang, sort of big breath outwards and inwards. You have an outflow of separation consciousness, an inflow, the in-breath, the Brahmins call it, and that causes a spin, a toroidal spin, with the presence through it. And so this is what the quantum scientists, the cosmologists believe is now the configuration, that's a 2D obviously, configuration of the torus, how the universe is configured, looking kind of like an apple. The point being that every single life form is configured of that. We are, the solar system is, the galaxy is, and galactic clusters, and so on and so on and so on. If I take this and flip it up through 90 degrees, I can see the human torus in it. So when we're sitting in the chakras and sitting in presence, we're actually sitting in the core of the torus. And Kundalini energy as the soul is spiraling around the torus and feeding into the different densities through the chakras and manifesting reality. Except, that is, when you have an energy that slows the torus down and pulls consciousness into a false self-identity, locked into artificial needs and desires, and bundles that up into society, which is what the opposing consciousness has done. Learned how to do that. Learn how to slow it down through Wi-Fi, through GMO, through all the myriad of different dissonant frequencies that are bombarded and subjected upon us right now. Conditioned behaviorisms, fear, lack of trust, control, manipulation, all of that is contradictory to the natural flow and cycle of the torus inside of us. And so, through that mechanism, those mechanisms, it's locked humanity down to this false self-identity. As we awaken, as we connect into presence, and animate the soul, we are reanimating this. But not only that, this is reanimating at the time the Earth's torus is reanimating. The actual spin of the Earth is increasing at the time the solar system is, and at the time the galaxy is. All interrelated. Now, quantum manifesting, if I can break down inside of me the desire, the need for reality to be a certain way, the fear that it will go a certain way, or attachment to a particular outcome, if I can break that down and open up so I can feel centered in the torus, and these different frequencies starting to come through me, now I'm quantum manifesting. All I need to do in any given situation, any challenge that I face, is offer the question up. Show me how to approach this moment, how to be in this moment. And from that, transformation happens because it happens from pure, authentic being. This is how I can effectively quantum manifest. But if I'm intentioning to create something, that's showing a lack of trust. It's showing essentially a poverty consciousness. By surrendering, but that doesn't mean giving up. Surrendering means softening into the torus, feeling the flow of energy and coming forth with that. A surrendering then to truth. The truth as it wants to come through you. This is quantum manifesting. And this is how we can change our reality now. Not wait for the shift to happen, but change it now. That's what we must be doing, especially with the shadow heaping on its agenda. What about how much time we have left? I started by talking about what I saw in the car crash in 2002, which is a tremendous shift, activation of the planet. I was literally looking down on the planet. It was in a ball of orange fire. That's how I saw it. That's how I saw it. I wondered what on earth that was in a 3D context. I said I didn't have the vocabulary or the understanding at this level for what I'd seen. I came in with those visions. So I researched it. I looked into it. I explored it. I was guided around different sites around the world, and also different research work that was going on. Every 12,000 years, there is a galactic pulse that comes from the core of the galaxy. Every 12,000 years. 12,000 years ago, at the height of Atlantis, that civilization was brought to an abrupt and rapid end by the melting of the ice sheet in 3 days. They were in an ice age at the time. And the global ice sheet melted in 3 days. And there was a deluge of waves, storms, tsunamis whipping around the planet. That epoch came to a rapid end. And it was precipitated by a solar micronova, which you can see blasted the walls of the pyramids. Dr. Robert Schoch has been recording the evidence of that and what took place, and is now showing that, demonstrating that. So you have the casing of the pyramids being blasted off 12,000 years ago. If you look at all the other star systems between us and the galactic core, they have all fired off into solar micronova. A pulse is moving through them. It brings in cosmic dust, which blankets the star, blankets the sun, causes it to agitate and then explode. all of the atmospheres on all the other planets are changing now, transforming rapidly now. This is happening at the time of the grand solar minimum, which is why it's getting colder, not hotter. And you know, there is climate crisis. So because it's getting colder, I don't adhere to what some of the alternatives are saying, which is no climate crisis. I totally disagree. We are in a grand solar minimum, which is lowering the magnetic shield of the solar system. More cosmic radiation is coming in. There's less irradiation of the planet, which is why it's cooling. But there's still more impact from solar magnetic forcing, electromagnetic forcing. It's triggering, activating, transforming the jet streams, which is greatly transforming the weather patterns. Storms, tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes, it's all triggering, it's all moving. To look out in the world and say there's no climate crisis because there's no global warming is very blinkered. We are in a dramatic transformation of the planet and the weather patterns and the magnetic field. And the magnetic field is dwindling at a rapid rate, accelerating rate. We are heading into a pole shift. How far is that away? Hard to say. 10, 20 years maybe. 10 or 20 years. What's going to happen at a pole shift? What's going to happen at a pole shift? You get the crust detaching from the mantle and flipping around. That's devastating to 3D life. Devastating. That's combining at the time of the grand solar minimum with the infusion of the galactic superwave. It's all converging together. It's all converging together. We have seen the other star systems between us and the galactic core go into solar micronova already. It's traveling at the speed of light. It's going to be with us anytime. The precursor for it, that's already arriving, I would say, the quantum effects. It's upon us and it's accelerating. And therefore, the invitation is to engage with the consciousness that's moving that. If we're invested in the old paradigm, it's a short-lived future. However, if we're transforming inwardly, you're going to be aligning with those new inbound frequencies that I've been speaking of. You're going to be aligning with them, attuning with them, activating them. This is going to be shaping, moving your reality, and ultimately bring you to the new paradigm through a process, which I don't have too much time to get into right now, through a process of Mahasamadhi. In effect, you're shifting consciousness into the higher self. You're embodying it here, which is infusing with the lower self as the Merkaba, which the ancients have spoken of. And at the point where the shift culminates through the event, through a process of self-empowered Maya Samadhi, a decision at a soul level to withdraw from this lower dimensional reality and then embody in the spirit light body in the new paradigm. This is the process that some of the past masters have enacted, undertaken. Paramahansa Yogananda, for example, and one or two others. And now, I maintain, believe, is becoming more widely available to those doing the work. I'm seeing it in what we might call not masters, but regular people. I'm seeing it happen. But we must engage with it, understand it. What are the shifts going on inside? What does it feel like when the spirit light body comes active? What is it like when the higher self is informing you in your daily choices and you're purifying the lower self to meet and merge with it? And then your reality is being informed. from this higher consciousness, we've got to live it now. We've got to live it now. That's the important thing. We cannot wait. The shift is happening around us, and we must engage with it on a moment by moment, day by day basis. This is why I feel so excited right now, standing here as we turn a page into the new year. Why? Because reality is coming home to roost. Reality, after aeons of illusion, is coming home to roost. And the reflections we're going to get are going to get increasingly aligned to the true self and the true nature of reality here. Not the veils, not the illusions, not the delusions and deceptions. It's all converging and coming to a truthful reflection of the field and the torus itself. And it's happening now. And we are being supported in that. If we tune in and we know what we're looking for and we work toward it. I encourage all to do that. What I'd like to do, just to conclude with, is to meditate with some of those feeling, senses, energies. Not a long meditation, a short one, but just to get a sense of the different frequencies. That's what I'd like to do, because there's some tremendous consciousness in this room. Let's harness it, let's work with it and activate it. Yes. So just closing the eyes, inhaling, exhaling through the nose, but beginning by feeling the resonance at the back of the throat chakra. So you get that drawing effect. And it feels expansive, timeless. And as you inhale, the expansion can go upwards through the third eye. So inhaling up into the third eye and out through it. And into the crown, inhale up, expand through, opening through. You might want to hold the breath a little at the conclusion of the in-breath. Hold it a moment or two and feel the expansion. And then as you exhale, exhaling down through the crown, through the third eye and throat. And then deeper down on the exhale, through the heart, through the solar plexus, the sacrum, and right down to the base. So now there's an inhale all the way up through the body and the head above the crown. On the exhale, all the way down. Now, the more you let go, the more you may get the sense of a spiraling, swaying feeling. Usually felt anti-clockwise up on the in-breath, clockwise down. This is the Kundalini energy through the torus. You can get the feeling on the out-breath of the higher self blending, merging to a degree with the lower self around about the heart. The sense then of being in the Merkaba. Now activating some of these different frequencies we've been calling on. So inhaling up, exhale down and through the crown. Inhale up, exhale down and through the crown. And I'm calling the Lyran energy that of alchemy, magic, creating from the unknown. Inhale up, exhale down through the crown, out through the third eye. I'm calling the Arcturian energy, altruistic, metaphysical, kind of quirky. Inhale up, exhale down through the crown, the third eye, and out through the throat. I'm calling the Andromedan energy, sacred geometry, the science word. Inhale up, exhale down through the head, through the throat, out through the heart. I'm calling the diplomacy ray, aligned Anu, aligned Syrian energy, only the aligned frequencies thereof. Inhale up, exhale down through the head, the chest, out through the solar plexus. I'm calling the shamanic ray 3, Orion, aligned Orions, seeing, weaving patterns through numerology, signs and synchronicity. Inhale up, exhale down through the head, chest, abdomen, to the sacrum, and out through the sacrum. I'm calling the Pleiadian energy of joy, of unconditional love, of trust, of curiosity, vivacity. Inhale up, exhale down through the head, chest, abdomen, all the way to the base, out through the base. And I'm calling Ray 1, the warrior energy of will, of drive, of courage, but aligned energy. To liberate, to set free, to elevate, to animate in an aligned, authentic way. And so just calling those frequencies to become active in a way that serves you, your highest truth, your highest self, And so to transform your reality in a way that is increasingly aligned and authentic, harmonious for you. Trusting in that, paying attention to that now, in the hours, days ahead. Final few moments, just feeling the energy, the sense of it, what it's like for you. And gently, slowly, softly opening the eyes, but staying with your awareness, part of your awareness in that energy that you're feeling. It's your energy, it's your authenticity. Feeling it, attuning to it, even though the eye is now open and you're looking out. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thank you so much for contributing to this, because it was felt. I could feel you in the field, and your inquiry, your interest in this, the compulsion to go with this shift, this movement, for every one of us that does this, for every one of us that steps forward with these authentic frequencies, it is an act of rebellion against the ways of the old, and the actualization of what we know and can feel in our hearts to be true, and is wanting to actualize, crystallize around us now. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. There's nothing that can turn it back. There's no technology, there's no being big enough, strong enough, evolved enough to stop it. Because you've got these grand cycles of moving, merging together. And that's what brings me so much enthusiasm, joy and excitement. I know it's not going to be easy. I know that. I'm not deluding. I'm not pulling rosy veils over. But reality is going to become increasingly authentic and real for those with the eyes who are looking at it the way it really is. And that's what I celebrate. That's what I'm looking forward to. Thank you so much for being you and for coming here on the planet at this time. The work you are doing is utterly crucial. At times you're going to feel like, if you feel anything like me, like you're alone, like you don't have any support, you might feel that. That's not the case though. We are being backed up, we are being supported. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I celebrate what you do. One final thing, if you resonate with anything I've shared, or you resonate with the approach of Openhand, then do consider getting involved. We have these postcards that show how you can connect with our portal. We have a vast library of exchange information going on between different people around the planet on openhandweb.org. And there's also plenty of events to get involved with. Thank you so much. Thank you.